All right, back at it here. Big D Energy, Woodward Sports Network. Welcome to hour number 2 of the show. Neil Rule, Sam Flannel in for DMAC. We have KG, Spencer Raxter in the building as well. Speaking of in the building, our guy, Dr. Jeff Pierce, the medical director of the Michigan Sports and Spine Center, is here in the house. I like these segments. We get an opportunity to talk about the sports science, I guess you could say, behind the athletes. But Dr. Pierce, I do have to pick your brain on this because Casey Mize, and great timing, Casey Mize pitching today. It's like we thought about this, had the Tommy John surgery, had a back surgery while he was recovering from the Tommy John as well. We see this all the time now. The Tommy John that used to kind of be a death sentence for pitchers, it's not anymore. And we saw Casey Mize have a great spring. The fans are excited about him. What other than science? Which I guess that is the answer. But what changed with Tommy John surgery?
We've talked about, first of all, Tommy John surgery, we know is the name after one of the most famous players, Dr. Jobs, who's a famous orthopedic surgeon out in California. This is where it all came from. It all started. He started doing more minimally invasive, kind of return, how to, tie down that ligament. So what it is, I don't know if you want me to go ahead and explain. It's on the inside of the elbow.
Right.
So it's the ulnar collateral ligament. So it's on the ulnar, which is the inside of your arm when you're putting your palm out. So that's the anatomical look.
Okay.
This is the anatomical positioning when you talk about relative to what part of your body. So it's always, ulnar is medial, so it's on the inside versus lateral on the outside. So it's the ligament there that takes a lot of strain. So a lot of doctors have worked, like we've talked before, the science, where is the science? We're doing more minimally invasive, the recovery. Right before is like you have instability of your elbow if this ligament isn't fixed. So now we're fixing it with minimally invasive technique, which is getting more to recovery. When you disrupt less of the tissues, you're seeing better recovery. And then there's that secret sauce we always talk about, which is helping these guys. I mean, you're talking about peptide treatment, regenerative stuff. I'm not exactly sure what he had done, calling it the secret sauce that I keep referring to, but that's what's going on. I mean, these guys are coming back. The science of medicine is going crazy with regenerative. We're starting to uncover things that are going on in your body that is naturally healing. We're starting to get that outside with an enhancement. So we talk about like peptides, and we've talked about exosomes, we've talked about PRP, we've talked about stem cell. All these things, the studies are catching up that these are enhancing the recoveries. You're strong, it's a stronger recovery. There's thickening quicker. Things that used to take 6 to 9 months are now closing in on 4 to 6 months. And it's the understanding the rehab that you do. Right, so the rehab team, the training team, understanding what exactly we need to do to recover. It's not just like, okay, you're healed, you're physiologically healed, it should be strong, it should be tight to the bone, but then it's the rehab of it, which is huge.
In the WoodwardSports.com chat thread, Wyatt Bear says, so it's not deer antler spray. Remember the deer antler spray thing? Those were good times.
Yeah, and the pet rock, I remember that too. So the secret sauce is not deer antlers, but it may, look, a lot of what we learn is out in the jungles, out in the forest. There's secret sauces that they get from plants and things like that. So there's a lot of truth to it. There's a lot of money being spent to understand why these things work.
Talking with Dr. Jeff Pierce here on Tuesday, as we always do. And as we talked about, the medical director for the Michigan Sports and Spine Centers. Baseball is a totality, right? That's something where with the Tigers, we've talked about, can they stay healthy? Riley Green, can he stay healthy? And I guess what I'm asking you is the nature of baseball. It's not this physically demanding sport in there. You're talking about collisions and things like that, like football. It's more the day-to-day, and I think it resonates more with me, certainly as I get older, because I go out and play catch and throw the football around with my kids, and I think I need Tommy John when I get done. And, just the day-to-day, the grind that these guys have to go through from a health perspective, is it a bit underrated? Because I feel like it is.
So I've taken care of every type of athlete there is, right? All the way to cricket. And baseball, I got put up against the wall from one of our local celebrity athletes who's a famous baseball pitcher. Because at that time I was taking care of women's football back when the danger was here. And we're going back to 2000. Arena football players, basketball. And I did admit baseball may be a little bit on the softer side.
Okay.
And he put me into the wall and said, how soft is this? But to be honest, it's like, why can they play 5 to 7 games a week? Think about if it flipped. We're playing baseball once a week, football 5 to 7 times a week.
Eesh.
It is taxing, right? So it's almost like, can they recover? Are they recovering? What are they doing to recover? The amount of activity that they exude during a game is nowhere near what football is doing. So there's energy elements that change it. So baseball is more of overuse. Like a Tommy John's almost like an overuse injury, or diving for a ball, or an unfortunate thing. But for the most part, there isn't collisions. There isn't that activity level. So to answer your question, I don't want to say they're soft, because they are unbelievable athletes. They do train way differently than they did in 2000. So they're trying to be more proactive, more preventative, but they're also putting it to another level for themselves, right? Even the batting, back in the day, Allen, who carried a much bigger bat versus these little bats they're doing now, it's this short stroke swing now that puts it out of instead of that big, huge Hank Aaron swing. So there's just different sciences. It's velocities. It's how to throw, throwing faster. There's a lot of throwing mechanism injuries, which is probably the most prominent part of it. Back injuries are unfortunate. You shouldn't really have a back. Like golf, you have more of a twisting motion. Baseball, you do have a twisting motion, but it should be like a log roll motion, not a real pivoting motion on the spine for the most part, depending how you're turning. Your mechanics, the analysis of the mechanics. I feel like I'm rambling right now. But,
You're good, man.
it gets down to pure science. I've just been watching on my Instagram because of what I do and what's going on with the show. I get all these workouts, and in fact, I may bring a couple in that we can show some of these workouts where it's the right workout to do. Like there was a workout I just sent my kid that's like, why are we getting so many injuries? Yeah, as a young child, they're power. They just want to power lift and everything.
Right, gains. It's about gains,
It's
bro.
about gains.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's what my 14-year-old son said.
That's right.
I need gains, Dad.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you gaining? What are you talking about? So it's like, they're measuring their biceps, they're measuring their chest on a weekly basis. But there was one young teenager who put out a video on Instagram saying it's about the functional part, it's about the explosive part, it's about the small stuff. Because what you do, and I'm not saying this is with the Tigers, but it is to some degree, when you start building up too much muscle, like basketball, you said, don't work out, you're going to ruin your ligaments and you're going to overpower. There's some truth to it, because when the muscle becomes so big and your ligaments are the weakest link, you're creating too big, unbalanced weights. So everything has to catch up. So when you talk about like the ankles are probably the most underrated, forgotten part of your body that's the most important, because everything comes from the ankle and balance. So when you start talking about weak ankles in basketball, in my day, we always did the walkies on the outside to strengthen it, and now it's the explosiveness. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but the point
It's become twitch fiber now, like fast
twitch
twitch.
fiber is becoming a common term, where I started this thing in 1996, that I want my athletes to have fast twitch. And then that was explosive out of the block, or box jumping, or the ladder work. The ladder work is underrated. The
Quickness
footwork.
instead of speed.
Quickness, speed. But speed is important, but a lot of games it's that first step. Like lacrosse and my son plays, that first step makes a difference. Football, you're looking at, there was a pattern that you don't hit your first step, you don't open up that 1 to 2 yards, because everybody's so good in football now, you've got to have like that split second of difference. So baseball, it's a different kind of sport. There's a lot more injuries. And I don't know if we're just not playing through those injuries, but we definitely have a better science, more prevention, and more understanding of what's going on.
Dr. Pierce,
Rambling.
yeah, no, that's all really good information. Obviously, one of the biggest sporting events last night was the Iowa LSU women's college basketball game, and there's a lot of outside stuff that kind of made the game more popular and more compelling. But how does I would say an athlete at that level playing in that type of a game, what kind of place do they have to go to where they can block all of that out and focus just on the game?
And kind of like a follow-up to that, too, because we talked about Casey Mize and the Tommy John.
Right.
You know, the mental, I guess it's an overarching mental side of sports we've touched on in the past, but to trust it, to deal with that kind of pressure and everything, with all those millions of viewers that they had, arguably for the first time, the highest viewed, how do you deal with that?
So is there an answer? There isn't an answer. There's toughness, right? So Mize is a little different because Mize has to feel confident with his body himself. Mm-hmm. He's not dealing with the critics of the world.
Right.
You know, we all have to admit it. You know, LSU was not the favorite child last night, and Iowa was. And she took on a lot, but it's funny, like, I deal with young athletes. She is an idol to a lot of young athletes, the LSU team. It's not, you know, cultural or whatever. I think it's just, how do you get through it? You saw her breakdown. I think you're referring to, like,
in the post game,
like, I got to be tough, but I'm still human. I think we all forget that these are human beings. There is feelings. There is natural.
Well, no, Dr. Pierce, if I watch them on TV, then they're not human.
Well, exactly, because they're actors.
Right.
No, they're not actors. It is, and that's why sports psychology is becoming so important now, because there is more criticism. Before, you know, back in the day of the Red Wings and stuff like that, you just had a reporter in the locker room for 5 minutes. He put it out. Mm-hmm. Now you're on, you know, everybody's filming you or doing something or watching you, or, you know, like Brady's being watched no matter where he goes and things put out. But you have to be mentally strong. You have to know who you are. And a lot of times people forget. And there's a lot of, I don't want to say self-pity or self-negativity, but a lot of times a true athlete is their own biggest critic. So at the end of the day, like myself, I'm my own biggest critic.
Right. We all are.
I don't need to be told I've gained weight. I know when I've gained weight. I know when I'm a step slow. I know when I'm having a good show versus a bad show. You guys know it.
Right.
You know, but to start hearing it from people that you care about or don't really care about, it depends on your personal makeup. And sometimes that's the limiting factor that doesn't get you to the next level. These kids being able to shut out, they can get to that next level. The coach for LSU, you know, she brought up, you know, the bullying and whatever she brought from the LA Times, and she's right when you take a step back. And that writer didn't mean it, I think, in the text that it was observed in. But it gets back to your point. They are human.
Human beings, man.
They're, you know, like they say, you know, I was with the Red Wings, I was with the best players, and my friends would say, how do they go to the bathroom? How do they wake up in the morning? They wake up just like us. No, they've done something a little bit extra in their life to make them a difference. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, you got time for a question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the viewers have a question for you here. Dad with Tourette's says, can someone ask the doc why Achilles injuries aren't more prevalent in baseball, at least at the highest levels? All the sudden sprinting being done, you know, when you're kind of, you know, you spend a lot of time in baseball stationary, which is actually a great question. Why aren't they more prevalent?
Because there's not too much explosiveness in baseball. When you're running bases, you know, like your body clicks in. A lot of times Achilles injuries, except for the football one, I forget the player for San Francisco, but that was like boom, explosive. So I think they're doing, like we see them all doing dynamic warm-ups in the outfield. I think there's just better care, but there's not that explosiveness always with baseball that you'll see those kind of Achilles injuries. So, but I think overall it goes back to our first questions. The activity level, the contact, the collision is always a little bit less in baseball. So you're having different types of things. You know, can we say that the trainers for baseball work more on your Achilles a little bit? Maybe on the steps to the dugout, they're stretching their Achilles the whole time. But I haven't really proven that theory.
Well, Dr. Pierce, as always, we appreciate the time. Dr. Jeff Pierce, the medical director at the Michigan Sports and Spine Center. As always, we appreciate your time, your expertise. So I don't need Tommy John after, like when I'm getting that burning right there after throwing the foot, right here.
Well, pull your sleeve up so everybody can see what you're pointing to.
Oh yeah. So like
you're pointing to the outside, which is the opposite side. So there's something called tennis elbow and golfer's elbow. You have something closer to tennis elbow.
No, that sounds soft.
Which is
that sounds soft.
All right,
Dr. Pierce, come on.
Tommy,
make it sound tougher.
All right. So it's a
ligament overuse.
Flexor issue in the most powerful part of your elbow to your wrist.
Yeah.
That muscle, that big oversized muscle, you have a little tendonitis in there that can easily be resolved without Tommy John surgery.
Okay, so I just need to stop bringing so much heat. You know what I'm saying?
Right, you're probably overpowering that muscle imbalance you created in those forearms. For what reason they're large, I will not get into.
All right, well,
get you some Bengay, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I don't need to come see you at the Michigan Sports and Spine Center for this one, right? Not for this one.
If you pay attention to it for 2 weeks and it's not better, you should probably come in.
I will do that. I will do that.
Because those are the nagging ones that continue. Do you golf?
I do, yep.
Yeah,
a lot.
So it would probably disrupt your golf game if you.
Well, I would never risk it like around a golf game. You know what I'm saying? Like I would say, hey, kid, sorry, Dad can't come play catch with you right now. We got the Monday Night Men's League. Can't do it.
You could do the Joey Kosar method. When he had to rest one arm or one hand when he played racquetball, he just became better with the opposite hand.
There you go.
You need to start practicing your left.
All right, Dr. Pierce, appreciate you. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday, all right?
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, absolutely. Dr. Jeff Pierce, everybody, Michigan Sports and Spine Center.